Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, Jack Plays. Now I'm doing a little bit of a different video today. Now I know I kind of took a break off over the Christmas period, then went straight back into videos doing the Gran Turismo Legends series. Now I know you lot have been enjoying that. The first two episodes did very well. The third one, not so well, but it's still alright. Don't worry, more of them can be coming, but I thought I'd switch it up a little bit. I've been working on this video for a while, excited to get it out. I've got a couple more videos coming out, but I'll get to them a bit later and explain that. So today we're going to be doing something, like I said, I've been working on for a while. It's going to be talking about the Master license in Gran Turismo 7. More specifically, the Master B license, I think it is. I hope so. We're going to talk about the Master A and the rest of them in another video. So yeah, the Master B, specifically in this video we're talking about. Now I'm going to be talking about each individual license, showing you footage of me, hopefully getting gold in each one, giving you my thoughts, and the kind of order of difficulty, should we say, going from the easiest to the hardest. Hopefully it's going to serve as some sort of a guide, a little bit of a help, but also just kind of an overview. Now I know the license did come out in November, so the video is slightly delayed, but bear with me. So let's get into it. Right, so starting off, like I said, we're going to be descending or ascending difficulty. Starting off in number 10, the easiest license. Now it's no surprise that it's actually going to be the Mazda, which is B1. So yeah, I can't remember the name of the car. I think it's some new Mazda hatchback. Yeah, it's an easy start to license, probably the easiest Master license in the game, I guess. And it's just simple starting and stopping, but because it's a bit harder, it's in the rain. So even as long as I can remember, the Gran Turismo have always started off with these brake tests: accelerate, brake, and aim to stop within the guided kind of area. So they start you off nicely. They give you this Master hatchback. It's got a bit of power, but nothing too serious. I was able to get, I think, luckily the car wasn't very powerful, so you can still drive full throttle throughout the whole thing, and traction control will take care of it for you. I'd say to get gold, you can do this in 5 minutes for the average player. I mean, most people who are better than me, which is quite a lot of people, can probably do this first try to get a gold, but just to be sure. Okay, so in number 9, the second easiest will, no surprise, be B2, the Dodge Viper. Just the same as the first test, however this time you're in a much more powerful car, that being the Dodge Viper. So one thing to note here is it's got a lot more power, about 2 to 3 times that of the Mazda, plus it is rear wheel drive, so you can be getting a lot of wheel spin. So although it does have traction control, I found the second I get into third gear, I do just have no grip and I just go sideways no matter what I try. Also slightly into second gear. So you can try and go full power and let traction control, but if I were you, I'd gradually increase the throttle once you get to third gear. Just try not to wheel spin. Obviously, since you're going to be going higher speed, you will need to brake earlier, especially since it's during the rain. But yeah, overall nothing too difficult in comparison to the other licenses. Brake early and you should be fine. Once again, it should take 5 minutes. I was able to get a very good time on my first attempt, but I had to go back over it just to ensure that I got a proper good gold time. So yeah, these first two licenses, very similar, nothing new if you will, just taking a step up a little bit, making it slightly more difficult. Now we're going to be talking about number 8, so there is a slight increase in difficulty going from number 9 to number 8, but yeah, nothing too difficult. It's going to be the Mercedes, what is it, Cosworth 2.3 or 2.5, one of the two, recently added to the game. I say recently, a few months ago. But yeah, that's a very nice car. It's a nice test taking you on, I think it's Deep Forest Raceway or Trial Mountain, Deep Forest Raceway. The first corner it sets you off, you've got to accelerate up to the corner, brake, and simply go around the corner. So nothing too difficult. I know that these tests aren't very complex, but they are varying difficulty. Yeah, it's a nice test, it's a nice car. It's a nice way of them showcasing new cars that have been added. They've done that a bit more on this license, I'll get to that later. You have to be quite precise with the braking point. as braking too late causes you to run wide, go off the track and fail, whereas braking too early causes you to be so slow that you carry no speed and therefore get a really bad time. So it is important to get the right braking point. Cut that out. So you can use the side barriers to kind of gauge your braking point. That's what I did. They're usually quite reliable. But the car doesn't have that much understeer or oversteer, so it is a very predictable car to drive. The car does have some interesting gears, from what I've written down here. It does have a very long third gear, so bear that in mind. It has decent power, early 200s. Overall, it's a nice license, not particularly difficult. You just have to be careful at braking point. Besides, the braking point is very straightforward to get from point A to point B. Get that right and you should be fine. I think this took me about 10 to 15 minutes to get a solid gold time. It is a very fun license to do, I will admit that. It's one of the better ones. It's a bit easier, so yeah, I very much like this license. Okay, moving on to number 7. This will be a bit of a surprise. The Ford Roadster. And the reason why this is a surprise is actually the final license test for Master B. So yeah, you'd have thought it'd have been the most difficult. But it's not a bad test. It showcases a very old car on Laguna Seca, a classic American hot rod on a classic American track. It's a very good mix. The Ford Roadster makes a change from the more modern cars that we're using throughout the license, so you will have to adjust your driving accordingly. Like I said, also nice to be driving a classic American car, classic American track. So I've got here, my advice for a gold time is to stay in third gear up until the corner, don't change into 4. And don't be afraid to run a little bit wide on the first corner as long as you're in tight on the second corner to try and carry as much speed. Brake a little bit and stay in third gear and then sprint to the finish line. His test may seem like it's quite bad. You got an old car with bad tyres on multiple corners. But you realise that there actually is quite a lot of room for error. The time, gold time is actually quite generous. Honestly the test wasn't that bad. I did it in about 15 minutes and it's one of the very few tests that is actually genuinely fun to keep on going again. You'd be surprised about that. So yeah, it's a nice test. It's a nice way to finish. You've got some quite difficult licenses, I'll admit, in this list. So coming up for this at the end, kind of a step back, if you will, which is quite nice. Okay, so going on to number 6 is going to be the Porsche Carrera. This is a very average license. If your goal is just to get a bronze or a silver time, you can get that first try very easily. I'm an average driver, and I got a silver in 3 tries. Gold is a little bit more difficult. I think it probably took about 20 minutes to get that. And once again, like I said about the Mercedes, you do have to get your braking point right. That is the key to these licenses. I found using the barriers at the side, I think from memory I went in between 2 white things or stands, whatever they are. You can use your own braking point, obviously. That's what I'd advise. Try and carry as much speed through the corner as possible. Too little and you'll be too slow, and too fast and you'll spin out. One thing I've got to remember is the Porsche, very nice car, interesting colour down Spa, but Porsche's rear engine, just be careful that you may get a slight bit of oversteer because of the weight of the back if you do floor it out at the corner. Overall, it's a relatively easy, it's an easier licence, and driving retro Porsche around Spa, it's always going to be fun. Probably one of my favourite cars in the licence. So yeah, overall not a bad licence. Like I said, 15-20 minutes should be enough to get a gold time. Even for a normal driver, 10 minutes probably should be fine. Okay, so going on to number 5, so now halfway, is the Mazda RX-8. Now I have to admit, I thought this was going to be one of the most difficult licenses of the batch, and it may seem difficult at first, but once you kind of learn to bend the track rules, should we say, it becomes a lot easier. So the first thing to note is when the thing doesn't actually set you up in a straight line to start with, so you will have to immediately shift into gear 4 because it redlines in gear 3, and turn as soon as you're able to already be in a straight line, and that helps you shave off half a second instantly. did for me anyway. Then you have to try and cut the first corner as much as possible while not going onto the grass. You can go onto the green area just before the second corner. You will not get failed as long as you do not touch the grass. So it's a bit bad. I'm encouraging you to kind of bend the track rules, but as long as you stay on the kind of fake grass area, not go directly off the track, you should be fine. That is a good thing because it does allow you to reduce the angle and carry a lot more speed. Brake and turn tight to accelerate to the finish line. It may feel slow, but this car once again does have quite long gears, so you'll accelerate from second, and then once you go into third, the revs will be right down. Obviously VTECs, you've got high revs, so yeah, it may feel quite slow, but don't worry, the times are counted for that. Overall, it's not as bad as I thought it'd be. Once I kind of learned to, cut the corners a little bit, it took about 20 minutes. It's quite a fun license, I must admit. The car's a very high revving engine, beautiful sound. It's also fun to try and carry as much speed from the corners. Some 200 horsepower everyday car, and in full throttle through the corners is quite fun. License also has a very funny name. If you know, you know. Right, going on to number 4 is going to be the Ford Sierra, and that's where they start getting a bit more difficult, and I did actually have to sit down and actually try at these ones. That's just a nice license featuring a relatively new Ford Sierra. I don't think it's that new anymore, but it's been added in the update. Nice rival to the Mercedes talked about earlier, going from that 1980s, 1990s touring car. Now I must admit this test did take me a while, but that's because of the confusion about how to do it best. So I kind of watched a few tutorials. There was one about Super GT, the YouTuber going over the license. He gave some advice, and I found some different advice, and they kind of, to be honest, they went against each other. They didn't really help me. So I'm going to tell you how I did it. This isn't probably the best way, but this is how I achieved gold. Try and carry as much speed through the first corner. I think I dropped into third. And you really got to try and maximise speed. Barely braking in third gear. The second gear, turning tight on this thing to maximise speed. I actually got gold by accident. I must admit, I was going through the motions, familiarising myself with the licence. If I know I can't get gold, I'll do it for a while. The next day I'll do it and just get used to the feel. I actually did get a decent gold time. It took me around half an hour to get that, so I will warn you, this test for the average driver will be a bit more difficult. It's a nice test. Once again, you're throwing the car right through the corners. Sounds really good, looks good, and it actually handles pretty well. I'd say better than the Mercedes, but I'll let you discuss that in the comments. Now, this is probably one of the more difficult ones. Now, going on to number 3, the Nissan Silvia. Like I said, it's one of the more difficult races. The car itself is okay, has some nice power, and it's quite fast considering the power it does have, but the corner you're going on is very difficult. So not only is it a blind corner, so it's hard to measure the braking point, but it's also uphill, so you'll lose speed. It's something I've never really attempted before, so you kind of have to change your driving style. To get around this, you have to ensure that you carry as much speed through the corner as possible. I know that's a given, but this is very difficult, as it's almost a 90-degree turn. You have to slow right down, but also carry loads of power. To maximise corner speed, you do, like I said, have to bend the rules slightly, go over the barrier onto the grass, just make sure you don't touch the actual grass. It was one of the most difficult of the batch, and probably took me about 40 minutes to get gold. This one of the very few that made me quite angry. Rage quit a couple of times doing this one. To be honest, it's probably not a very fun licence, but let's get it over and done with, I guess. Okay, now going on to the hardest two, in my opinion, of the batch. Now this may surprise you. And number 2 is going to be the Honda S2000, the 4th licence. It's actually a very nice test, but quite difficult. So you'd have thought you're going in a everyday kind of sports car, one corner and to the finish line. So compared to like the road sort of 3 corners in a more difficult car, I thought it would have been easy, but it's not easy at all. To confess, I've probably done this licence for over an hour and I still haven't actually got gold. My best is a silver time. and yet this is the easier of the two that I'm going to be talking about now. But the reason why it's so difficult is because it's insanely hard to do it on the controller. On the wheel, I'm not so sure, but on the controller. So I'll explain why. So you have to get the exact steering angle. Usually you can either, on controller, it's either fully kind of middle or in a straight line. But this one you have to be so precise, and on controller it's very difficult to get a precise steering and stick to that button pressure, if you will, for a good 5 seconds. On the wheel it's very easy, as you can just turn the wheel and it allows so much range of motion, which translates into different steering angles. On controller that's a lot easier said than done, if you will. So if you can do this on controller, I'll be very impressed. I mean, a proper good driver should be able to. For the everyday person on controller, I've got to be honest, it's very difficult. Yeah, like the car itself is actually quite nice. The test is very straightforward, but it's just that one problem. I probably spent about 20 minutes a day for about 2 weeks just to familiarise myself, and my time did improve. I'm about 200th of a second off gold. Yeah, you steer too little when you hit the wall, too much and you actually lose speed, so it's insanely difficult to get the right angle. Once you can get the right angle, it does help a lot. And now going on to number 1, which is very similar, is the Honda K. So yes, you're probably surprised a 63 brake horsepower K car steering around one corner is the hardest test. But the problem is, it's the exact same corner as number 2 with Honda. Because it's got less power, you have to be even more exact, and because of the problems I've just explained, it's the most difficult of the 10 tests, and this test I must have done easily an hour and a half. I don't know if I'll get it. I think my time is actually closer than number 2. I think it is possible, just very, very difficult. So yeah, these are the hardest tests in my opinion, these two. On the wheel, I'd probably say the Sierra is the hardest one. The Silvia and the last two with a wheel will be much easier, whereas the Sierra is more driver skill than being limited by what you're playing the game on. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the license test. Hope you all enjoyed it. I'm going to be giving you a couple of tips on how to do it. Firstly, experiment with the different ghosts. You've got the replay ghost, or the personal best ghost. You can use that to try and improve on your own time, and the demonstration ghost, that'll give you the gold time. And secondly, like I said, just kind of do a bit as regularly as you can. Don't have to try and aim for gold every single time, but just get used to how the car feels, that kind of stuff. Yeah, that should help you. So yeah, next time hopefully I'll do the Master B license or Master A. If you did like this video, like it so I know. But yeah, thanks for watching.